Warm greetings and a very good afternoon to one and all present here on the occasion. I accord a cordial welcome to our guest, Professor Dr. Lisa P. Lucas, to our principal, Professor Lalima Singh, who has been a constant motivating force behind the organization of such academic events. My reverence and warm welcome to Dr. Manjari Shukla, the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Meenu Agarwal, chairperson IPR cell, Dr. Anuradha Singh, convener SSK IIC, and the members of the organizing team and the worthy participants as well. The ocean of knowledge on the issue of IPR is an amalgam of varied experiences and perspectives. The deeper you penetrate into it, the greater you understand and reason, and also develop the confidence to act with wisdom. Our participants have been engaged in this effort from past 1 week. Today, on the final day of IPR Week celebration, we are here with an illustrious resource person, Professor Lisa P. Lucas, who would acquaint us with the role of copyright in the observance of academic integrity. I take this opportunity to familiarize you with her brief profile. Professor Lisa is a professor in the university's I'll begin once again. I take this opportunity to familiarize you with her brief profile. Professor Lisa is a professor in the University School of Law and Legal Studies at Independent University, Delhi. She has received many accolades, including the Rashtrapati Award for Guides, VIWA International Award 2021 for Outstanding Women Researcher in Law, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan Distinguished Award in Intellectual Property Rights Law 2021, the Commonwealth Law Reform Commission, Honorary Director, Commonwealth Institute for Justice, Education and Research, and Secretary of the Commonwealth Legal Education Association of India. Has published 9 books and has over 60 research articles on various legal issues in reputed national and international journals. She has been a member of Geographical Indication Expert Legal Committee, Government of India, and course person for UGC programs and academic conferences. Professor Lisa has been nominated by Higher Education Department, Government of Delhi, as expert member in the conceptualization and formation of New Delhi Law University, a dream project of Government of Delhi. She is life member of several national and international legal institutions, such as the Indian Law Institute, Indian Society of International Law, Institute of Constitutional and Parliamentary Studies, and the Indian Institute of Public Administration. Now I would request Dr. Manjari Shukla, IQAC coordinator, for a formal welcome to our resource person. Over to you, Manjari ma'am.
Oh my God.
Ma'am, you are welcome. Itself was sufficient. I can begin with this section if there is any other technical glitch from Manjari ma'am's side. May I have the permission to begin my session? Dr. Jyoti ma'am, am I audible to you? Am I audible to you, ma'am?
Thank you, Manjari ma'am. Now I would request our resource person, Professor Lisa, to take on the podium and begin with her presentation. Over to you, Lisa ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, I could not hear anything.
You are not audible.
Am I not audible?
Ma'am, you are audible. You are audible, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Tanushree. Yeah, so thank you so much for the warm welcome that I have received from SS Khanna Girls Degree College. And this is my maiden visit, though I am doing it virtually now. And let me appreciate SS Khanna Girls Degree College for organizing such a wonderful program, a week-long program to celebrate intellectual property observance. Usually colleges do celebrate it only on 26th or might be on 23rd when we celebrate World Copyright Day. But you have chosen entire week's program to celebrate it so meaningfully, effectively, and productively. So let me congratulate the management, the faculty, the principal, the director, IQSC coordinators, everyone for taking such a brave step. And let me also congratulate all the faculty members who are attending all these programs and all the students who are attending it with a lot of patience and enthusiasm. And thank you, Rohila, my student, for introducing me here. And it's only because of Rohit I have come, because when students make a request, because he has been my student, so I just cannot decline it. Okay, so I will quickly go to the topic, and I would request all the participants to mute your mic. And whenever you need to talk something, that time you can unmute and you can speak. Otherwise, there will be a lot of disturbance. And as per the scheme that I have envisaged for the session, I thought of completing my PPT first, and then I will give you time to interact so that I can also complete the points that I would like to cover in today's session. Is that okay with the participants?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
This
you.
format will be okay.
So, as my understanding goes, you are doing your faculty members and you are doing your PGs or UGs as the case may be. So you might have exposed already to the basic concept of copyright. So I'm not taking you to the basic concept of copyright. I would stress upon the role the copyright plays in the academic field, especially to the faculty members, especially to the students who are also the content creators. So that's why I say, as an academician, when we approach the subject copyright, it has got a double role to play. Because on the one hand, we are content creators. You write books, you write articles, you write assignments, you write essays, you contribute to newspaper. This is your content. So what are your rights as a content creator? You can prevent others from copying that. But at the same time, you think about the content that you have created. And I'm sure that none of us are creating from vacuum. We are creating on the basis of what we have read, on the basis of what we have seen, on the basis of what thinking comes to our mind. And this very thinking process itself is ignited by the things that we have seen and the things that we have heard and the things that we have read. So how to utilize these memories? How to utilize the materials that you are borrowing from other authors? How to utilize the illustrations that you are borrowing from a pre-existing work? So we have a duty to respect others' work when you utilize them. And once you create on the basis of those building blocks, if your work is original, if your work is creative, you are also going to get some benefits out of it in the form of copyright. If your original creativity itself was something mischievous, when I say this, you have borrowed materials, but you never acknowledged it. The originality was very less in the material that you have created. Most of the portions were copied. It was a piece of copyright violation. It was an instance of plagiarism. In such a situation, of course, your work is not a piece for another copyright. It will be just treated as an infringed version for which you will be liable to pay. So that's why I have told it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it gives you right. On the one hand, it gives you. On the other hand, it gives you duty. So as a content creator and content users, we need to take precautions, especially when we deal with the contents. Not only students who write assignments and essays and projects, we teachers, we should write articles. We should contribute chapters to the books. We should contribute to conference proceedings. Otherwise, we will never get to promotions because we all are sailing on the same boat. We know that the API scores will be counted on the basis of your research performance. And by teaching, you cannot compromise this because in each and every content you need to, every category you need to have a points. So research points should be independent point that you will be collecting on the basis of the chapters, on the basis of your articles, and on the basis of your books. So if you have to survive in your academic profession decently with the due promotions, you need to produce. So there is no alternative ways. We have to publish papers. So before going to the next slide, I would also say that we cannot underestimate the importance of human right in dissemination of knowledge. So when we write certain things, as I told you, if it is original piece, you have a right as a content creator. And can you take a decision that I will not disseminate it? Of course, you have this sole autonomy to decide whether to publish or not to publish. But at the same time, when we go by the human right principle, we say that right to know is a human right. Right to get information is a human right. And we are also part of the public. We are not only content creators, but we also want information. So right to know, right to have the information, and right to read, right to be entertained, all these are fundamental human rights. So dissemination is the rule, and restriction of the dissemination is an exception. So that's why we say the basic purpose of copyright is encourage creativity and dissemination of knowledge. And let us quickly go to the next slide. So as content creator, especially when we do academic writing and research, these are the main works that we do. I'm not reading it all. I have already explained it. So I think in your institute also, in your college also, you do everything. Even I have taken question papers here. Question papers are also worthy of copyright protection because a teacher reads a lot of book before framing a question paper. So if any teacher gets the responsibility of question paper setting and the teacher believes that the teacher can copy the question paper of some other university which they have done a few years back, it will be a blatant copyright violation. But let me also touch upon another issue here. Who will own the copyright in the question paper that you create? It is depending on the contract on the basis of which you are appointed in your university. So usually all academic activities which are ancillary to teaching, that also will be fall under your employment activity. So it will not be the teacher who will be getting the copyright on the question paper. It will be the university who will be paying the teacher for doing that. But I told you, this is a debatable position. When I say debatable, the law is already settled. If your contract term is not specifically talking about it, you may interpret it otherwise. If question paper setting is not part of your employment, then the teacher may get a copyright, not the university. But in Indian setup, ordinary Indian setup of every university, the university is paying not only for the teacher to teach, but also to involve the teacher in all administrative activities. As teachers, we do many administrative activities. We can't say that we should be paid extra because it is contemplated that you will be doing everything in the university. So when we have to deal with the copyright, there is some sort of work which are public domain work. First category in the public domain work is the work where the copyright has lapsed. So you know that the copyright period, what is the duration of the copyright? Anyone can quickly unmute and tell me if you know what is the duration of the copyright. There can be wrong answers, no issues, I can correct you. But I just want interaction. Anybody here? Whether copyright is a perpetual right or it has got a limited period. So I'm not getting any answers. Am I audible to you? Jyoti ma'am, am I audible to you?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're audible.
Anyone who has rough idea as to what is the term of copyright? Yeah, since no answer is coming to me and since I don't want to waste my time, I myself will give the answer also. The copyright, in most of the work, the copyright exists for the lifetime of the author plus 60 years. So 60-year period will start counting only after the death of the person. So once the person dies, then for another 60 years, there will be copyright in the book. So a person dies after writing a book after 60 years. So that means roughly the period will be calculated as 120 years. Till that time, there will be copyright for both economic and moral rights. But once the period is over, think about the works of what you call the works of Salmont, the work of Cardoso, the works of Shakespeare, the works of Shelley. All these people, they have died centuries ago. So you know that these all are public domain work wherein no copyright subsists because they died 60 years back. Now, when I say that there is no copyright, it is a public domain work. Still, it is not giving you any right to use the book the way you want. It should be used, you should use the work the way Copyright Act wants you to do. Because the 60-year period after the lifetime is being counted for the economic right of the copyright. So the rights in the copyrights are roughly divided into economic right and moral rights. Economic rights, section 14 of the Copyright Act deals with it, wherein you have the right to publish, right to reproduce, right to make copies, right to translate, right to broadcast, etc., etc. And when we come to moral right, in India, the moral right is restricted only to concepts, paternity right and integrity right. Paternity right is right to be claimed as the author. So you are taking the Romeo and Juliet of Shakespeare. You just make some twist in the story and then you write your name and publish it. The paternity right of Shakespeare is affected because it's only Shakespeare's child, Shakespeare's brainchild. And you are taking a public domain work, you are adding certain paragraph to it, deleting certain stanzas from it. If there is a picture of a beautiful woman, you are adding mustache to it. Anything by way of modification, by way of mutilation, by way of distortion, if you are anything to the work, it affects the integrity. So the paternity right and integrity right have no period. It will remain forever. It is perpetual. This is what section 57 of Indian Copyright Act says. So I just wanted to remind my audience here that even with respect to public domain work, you just cannot borrow the material without acknowledgement. You have a duty to acknowledge it. Now I am coming up to another point. As a teacher, we use the copyrighted work in the class to teach. So teachers can now just think that which are the subject that you teach and which are the books that you follow in the class. We are not taking permission from the authors to teach the books in the class. How many of you have taken? None of you. Sometimes I might be teaching your article, you might be teaching my article, but we have not taken permission each other. Because it's in the fair dealing. Section 52 deals with the fair dealing for what all copyright is exempted, especially in educational sector. And when you are writing an article, you will write from my article or you will write from my book or anybody's book and article, and very decently you will attribute it in the footnote or in the endnote or in the reference of bibliography as the case may be. This is what is known as attribution, and attribution we usually do by way of citation. But when I say that you can rely on other books, you can use them in classroom for teaching, you can use them in writing articles, you can use them in writing answers, you can use them in writing setting question papers. How much you can take? That is the question. Can you do a verbatim lifting? The answer is no. So the doctrine of substantiality helps us to find out answer to this. This doctrine says you cannot borrow substantial portion of it. And what is substantial portion? Unfortunately, our Copyright Act is not defining it. And there are two schools in the entire world when you look at doctrine of substantiality. One school says it is a qualitative analysis. Think about a poem of 4 stanzas. You are borrowing only 1 stanza. Whether that will cross the doctrine of substantiality. So the courts say, you have to see what is the importance of that one paragraph. If the poet says, actually that paragraph is the soul of my poem. It is the soul and heart of my poem. That will be taken as an infringement because according to the circumstances, it has to be construed what is the quality of that particular portion to the entire work. Another school says, no, it is a quantitative analysis. And we have a Cambridge University case, Cambridge University Becker case. Which I request the audience to mute yourself. Unless until you are talking something to me. So you can see that in the doctrine of substantiality, the US has taken a particular stand that it is a quantitative analysis. If more than 10% of a work is being copied, then only you need to take permission. But we have very few countries, less than 10 countries, wherein this particular approach is taken. And in both the countries, this approach is taken. One was the country Czechoslovakia. And in both the countries, they have done it only for the purpose of education. But the rest of the world has not gone by this quantitative analysis, but they have gone by qualitative analysis. So I would say, even if you are taking 2 lines or 4 lines from a book, to be on the safer side, you please acknowledge it in the footnote. It is not a dirty thing to acknowledge. And nobody will feel bad that, okay, this person has borrowed this from there. It's not his original idea. There is no harm in it. We are academicians. We are supposed to read and read and quote. You do it with pleasure. You do it with pride. It shows you are a man of wide reading. Nobody will feel ill about it. You did not originally think about it. You borrowed it from somewhere because we cannot think everything original. We cannot think everything novel, but we can express things in novel way. So that's why copyright law is not lies in novelty, but the basis of copyright law is originality, unlike the patent law. So now when I move forward, I already introduced the concept of fair dealing to you. Section 52 of the Copyright Act deals with the fair dealing. So I repeat the fact, or I repeat the law that the reproduction of entire material cannot be taken as a fair dealing. For example, I am writing a 10-page article and all the 8 pages I am producing from here and there and only 2 pages of my own. And I say that I have produced from 8 sources, and all the 8 sources I have acknowledged. Of course, that will not give me a good status in the academic circle. Of course, what I say is, if you analyze your work with respect to each and every piece that you have taken, you may be protected by way of doctrine of substantiality, but at the same time, your work will not deserve any merit because it lacks originality. See, teachers, when students come to do dissertation, we give them a certificate that it is an original work. What is meant by this originality? It is based on somebody's idea, but the expression is of students. And the students have in verbatim copied it. The students have used their own ideas into it, infused the ideas existing somewhere else or borrowed from somewhere else with the infusion of the author's idea, and the pre-existing idea has happened. It's not only reproduction of the ideas that happened earlier. So the originality concept is very important, and the reproduction of whole material is not allowed in any system of copyright law. Those who are not in IPR field, I would suggest to at least read a summary of R.G. Anand versus Deluxe film, a beautiful case which happened in the year 1978, which has settled almost all the law of copyright in the land of India, wherein the court said no substantial copying or material reproduction will be allowed. So only responsible excerpts are permissible under the fair dealing. It is not the verbatim reproduction. The larger the copying, the less fair is the dealing. I think this sentence is sufficient for you to understand what is the fair dealing. You can copy, you can borrow to a certain extent, but it's not the entire paragraph, the entire page or entire chapter as the case may be. So effect of acknowledgement of the source will not always make your work another piece of copyrighted work. So you can, if everything is copied, it is just amalgamation of what all existed. You cannot call it as a new work. And friends, you might have heard about a very common saying, copying from one source is copyright infringement, but copying from many sources is research. John Milton has said it centuries before, but I would say that it is totally wrong when we analyze that particular statement in the 20th century. Because in the 20th century, there is a lot of development has happened in the field of intellectual property rights, especially in the field of copyright law. So even if you have copied from many sources and you lack your own original thinking and your own original ideas in your work, nobody will recognize your work as a good academic work. So already I have talked about this verbatim lifting. I am giving you here an Indian case also, wherein the verbatim lifting was made in Syndicate of Press of University of Cambridge versus V.D. Bhandari case, and the court has said that verbatim lifting is not protected under fair dealing. And you can use paragraphs or sentences from a book when you have to review, criticism, etc. But at the same time, your own input should be there. Now, I am introducing another case to you, Fateh Singh Mehta versus O.P. Zingle, wherein a supervisor has shamelessly borrowed chapter from a student and published in his name. So the supervisor's argument in the court when the student has gone for copyright infringement was that the chapter was written under his supervision. Even if the chapter is written under supervision of a particular supervisor or a guide, that is not making him even a co-author. Unless and until both of them are contributing to the development of expression of ideas. So,
Participants are requested to mute their mic.
Meenakshi, please mute your mic.
So you have a duty as teachers, as academicians, as content creators to copyright your work if you have created it. I'm quickly taking you to my first slide. See here, you can see I have put an encircled C. Because this slide I have prepared after reading so many pieces, so many cases, so many books. So this is my intellectual effort. So suppose if I am sharing this slide with you and somebody wants to give the same lecture, is simply you delete my name and write your name, I may not easily find it out. But that will be a copyright infringement. So you have to claim your copyright. How do you claim is? You have to simply show with this symbol that you have claimed your copyright. Usually it will be followed with the year also, but after the death, the year will have a validity because I told you it is lifetime. I don't know when I am going to die. So the 60 years from my death, the copyright will subsist. And you want to use one slide, you want to use some information, definitely you can do because that is fair dealing. But the entire PPT you are borrowing and you are deleting my name and using my name. That affects not only my paternity right, but also other economic right. So that's why I am saying here that you have to claim your copyright. And there is no need of going to copyright office to protect. That's very important. You will not get a patent without going to a patent office. You need to register your patent. But as far as copyright is concerned, it's just an automatic right. I will tell you another example. When I joined this Zoom link, I got a message that the meeting is recorded. So I had two options, either to continue with the meeting, and if I am not happy with the recording, I can leave the meeting. So I said continue, okay. So that means I am okay with the recording. So my lecture is simultaneously getting recorded. So I'm getting two copyrights here. One is on my PPT. Second is on the recording that is taking place here. Because if I am simply delivering the lecture and there is no simultaneous recording, my lecture is unfixed and there is no copyright. But since simultaneous recording is taking place, my lecture is getting fixed. So I have the copyright on the sound recording. Are you getting the point? So even if I am not going to copyright office to register it, it is automatic. And you have invited me here. It's your recording. If you are making those students who did not attend my lecture to hear it later, I cannot sue you because you can do it under fair dealing. And you are not saying that it is your lecture. You are telling that it is my lecture only. So we are balancing the conflicting interest of the content creator and the users. And especially in developing country, if this balancing is not done intelligently and prudentially, it will create a death knell to the supply of knowledge. I'm quickly coming to the second part of my lecture, where I am going to connect the copyright concept with research, integrity, and ethics. You will agree to me that we all are in content creation, we all are in research, so we have to follow certain integrity and ethics rules. Where these integrity and ethics rules are written, unfortunately in India, it was not codified anywhere. But from 2018, we started codifying this. In 2018, UGC has released a UGC plagiarism rules. And entire higher educational institutions in the country are bound to follow this. So the ethics and research integrity are basic norms and values that every researcher in a research community should follow. So you can say that basically the research prudence of a content creator, like you students, we teachers, it's lie in the following things. You should have respect for copyright. You should have academic integrity. You should have research integrity. You should have intellectual honesty. If it is not your material, you should never say that it is your material. I have a student, when he was teaching earlier in other institute, not in IP University, it happened 10 years back. I'm not taking the name of the institute where this incident had happened, who submitted a LLM dissertation to me. So he was already practicing there. He has taken 2 years leave to study LLM. And he produced a very beautiful piece to me. And that time, 10 years back, of course, the softwares for checking plagiarism like Turnitin and Urkund was not very familiar. No, none of us used at that time, 1 decade back. So it was very beautifully written. I had a lot of appreciation for the student. And before, when the final draft he had submitted to me, I was just searching something. And then I saw that there was a project submitted by a team of Symbiosis Law School students of Pune University, Symbiosis Pune, to Competition Commission of India. Actually, it was their project work the student has submitted to me. And I have been appreciating the student for almost 3 months for the intellectual work that he has been doing. And he could present very beautifully verbally when I was asking him doubt. But nothing was his own. Everything was copied. So I wrote to university to write action against the student. I prevented him from final submission. And that was a very big issue that time because teachers were not strong enough to take actions against academic misconduct and wherein intellectual honesty was lacking. But I have taken a very firm stand. And I said that it will not be allowed. So the student was debarred. So the intellectual honesty is very important. So the content that we create should be plagiarism free. There should be no copyright violation. And whenever you borrow materials, you have to quote it. You have to acknowledge it. You have to give a proper attribution to that. I will just wait for a minute so that you can quickly read what I have written on this slide. I'm moving to the next slide because already these points I have covered. I was referring to the academic integrity rules. So you can see that the 2018 Promotion of Academic Integrity and Prevention of Plagiarism in Higher Education Institutions Rule 2018. It's being implemented everywhere, and it is a duty of the college, it's a duty of the university to follow it up, to promote the academic integrity. And in India, for the first time in Indian history, UGC has come out with defining what is academic integrity, defining what is plagiarism, and penalizing students and teachers for committing into academic misconduct. So, academic integrity is defined in the rule, UGC rules, as intellectual honesty in proposing, performing, and reporting any activity which leads to the creation of intellectual property. That means if you are submitting a research proposal, forget about articles and books. You are submitting a research proposal. If the research proposal itself is plagiarized, it is against academic integrity. And at the educational levels, every department will have a departmental academic integrity panel. And on the institutional level, you will have an institutional academic integrity panel. I don't know whether your IQAC has insisted on this and your college has it. If your college has it already, it's very well appreciated. And if you do not have it, I will request you to do it because it is a mandatory requirement. And the creation will also enhance the respect for copyright and the respect for academic integrity, not only amongst the faculty, but also among the students. So, you know, the plagiarism can be many types. One can self-plagiarize. So that means I submit my article to different journals so that I can, with the changing the title, the only cosmetic changes that I am doing, no material alteration or anything that I do, but I am submitting it as 2 papers so that I can show my college that I have 5 publications or I have 3 publications. So I will get more points in my API points. No, that tricks we cannot do. And even students, when you write assignments, you have to do this. And one more point, this rule is not strictly applicable to LLB or the UG students. It's strictly applicable from PG students, those who do post-graduation, MPhil, PhD, and postdoctoral. So there is a difference between plagiarism and copyright infringement. I have the habit of asking questions in between. So I will just ask, if anyone gives me answer, I will be happy. You will boost up my confidence also. Anyone here who can just tell me at least one difference between plagiarism and copyright infringement?
या मैम, कॉपीराइट ये है कि आपने जो लिखा है वो कॉपीराइट आपको मिला है, बिना आपकी परमिशन कोई ले नहीं सकता. प्लैगियरिज्म है आपने किसी को कॉपी किया है, कितने % तक किया है, उसके लिए आप दंडित हो सकते हैं.
Thank you for at least responding to me. I am really grateful because when a speaker asks questions and the speaker is not getting any answer, of course, that is an embarrassment for the speaker. So you have served me from that embarrassment. So I should thank you for interfering. Yeah, so the difference between plagiarism and copyright infringement is basically on this particular fact, because I told you for copyright fixation is very important. Ideas cannot be copyrighted unless and until the ideas are converted into a book, a literary work, or a poem, or a novel, or a short story, or a film, or a painting, or a picture, as the case may be. I simply said an idea, and there is no recording of my class taking place now. I do not have a copyright. I have established it already. But plagiarism is very dangerous. Even in ideas, there can be plagiarism. If you borrow someone's idea wherein no copyright exists, then also it will be a plagiarism. And I told you in copyright, substantial taking. One line you may borrow, 2 lines you may borrow. Even if one paragraph from a 1000-page book you may borrow, it will never be a copyright infringement, because it says as under fair dealing, you can take substantial portions. But still it will be a plagiarism, because I told you when ideas are protected under the plagiarism. Is there any law for plagiarism? We do not have any law for plagiarism. Copyright Act doesn't talk about plagiarism. It's only 2018 academic regulation of UGC talks about plagiarism. But as prudent academicians, we should be very careful. I know you might, I am sure that you might have read about news in last year. 2 vice chancellors of India lost their vice chancellorship because in Ms. Jyoti Patil, I will be grateful if you can mute yourself. Yeah, so one vice chancellor lost his PhD, lost his post because the PhD was plagiarized. Another vice chancellor lost the vice chancellorship because 4 of that person's articles were plagiarized. So the PhD, the person has produced the PhD 25 years back. But and he became a lecturer, he became an associate professor, he became a reader, he became a professor, he became a dean, he became a VC. That time, the country says, no, you cannot resume the post. So we should be very careful, because there can be academic sanctions and academic punishments if we commit plagiarism. So copyright infringement is not that stringent and strict, but plagiarism is stringent and strict. Nobody will jail you for plagiarism. Nobody may fine you for plagiarism, but you may lose your job. There will be administrative sanctions, and the courts are really taking strict measures favoring the institutions which initiated proceedings against plagiarism and copyright infringement, and always disfavoring the person who has committed this. Now, it also says the relationship between student and the supervisor, what the mutual responsibility they have. So there is a duty attached on the supervisor to see the student produces plagiarism-free work. And here it is a duty of the institute and the college and the university to procure and provide the facility to the students to check plagiarism. So that's why many universities are buying now Turnitin and Urkund softwares so that the students can be facilitated to check the plagiarism. And when you check it, the 14 sentences together you have to take. If the 14 words, if the 14 words, I have underlined it, so up to 14 consecutive words, there is a limit. That means if, like you say, Constitution of India or United States of America, United Nations, International Charter, and when we talk about all these things, it will not consider as a plagiarism, because the 14 words together will be excluded from the count. Now moving further, in your research, in your articles, in your thesis, there are something that is considered as core research and zero similarity. Abstract, summary, hypothesis, observation, result, conclusion, and recommendation. This should be regarded as a core area of your research, which the law allows zero similarity. So the 14-word count that they have speaking about is not here with respect to abstract, summary, hypothesis, observations, results, and conclusions. You can exclude many things before doing the plagiarism check. Many of you belong to legal profession. So some days we reproduce articles from Constitution, sections from legal statutes, and it may be many portions from law commission's reports or books, or from international legal instruments, from UDHR or from any treaties or agreements like that. You can remove all that before you go for a plagiarism check. Only thing is that if you have produced the articles and the sections and the law commission's report, etc., there also should be an attribution. In the footnote or in the main body, you should say that this is what Article 14 of Constitution of India says. This is what Section 23 of Indian Contract Act says. So it should be attributed. And then in the plagiarism count, these things, the generic laws, the standard symbols, standard equations, all these things will not be counted. When we talk about even references, bibliography, footnote is not included here, but many universities in their own ethical rules that they have framed, they have added even the footnote as well. And now I am taking you to a very interesting part. If your similarity up to 10% is permitted, if your similarity crosses 10%, then what happens? If your similarity is up to 10 to 40%, the student should revise the script and submit within 6 months. If your similarity crosses 40 to 60%, such students will be debarred from submitting a revised script for a period of 1 year. If your similarity crosses 60%, then such students' registration for the program shall be cancelled. And if plagiarism is proved on the date later than the date of award of a degree, his degree or credit shall be put in abeyance for a period recommended by the institutional academic integrity panel. So these things are getting very complicated. So we all should be made ourselves sensitized about the existence of such rules and regulations in the country, and we need to have respect for them. It's not only for students, for we the teachers also. If similarity of any of the articles or the chapters or the projects that we have produced is more than 10%, then we shall be asked to withdraw the manuscript. If it is above 40 until 60, not only the article will be withdrawn, even there can be denial of one annual increment. But if the similarity is more than 60%, then there can be denial of 2 successive annual increments. And we will not be allowed to supervise any students for a period of 3 years. As I told you, we do not have much codified laws on this. I just want to introduce you certain or a couple of principles that the international community has developed. One such important thing is 2010 Singapore Statement on Research Integrity that talks about honesty, accountability, professional courtesy and fairness, and good stewardship in research. Then we have other principles like the Montreal Statement of Research Integrity in Cross-Boundary Research Collaborations, Amsterdam Agenda 2017. And in all these policies and principles, you can see that they are talking about the responsibility of a researcher, how a responsible research can be conducted. You may be doing a project, you may be writing an article, you may be writing a book, but in all these things, your research for you are doing the research for the society and how the data has to be collected and how the data should be kept. You cannot attack the vulnerable community. You cannot use the data that you have collected for one project for another project. Because if for a particular specific reason you have collected the data, only for that purpose it has to be used. It is not even allowed for the researcher to keep the data once the research project is over, because the people have privacy for their data also. And whenever you have to collect data from people or a community, it's your duty as a researcher to intimate them that you are collecting this data, you are observing them, or a questionnaire is being sent for this particular purpose, and information will be utilized for this. Similarly, in 2019, we also have a Hong Kong principle. Another important thing that I would like to share with you is NIST guidelines. I should say that personally, I like NIST guidelines very much. this NESH guidelines for research ethics in social sciences, humanities, and law and theology. You see that that talks about the norms related to academic freedom, originality, openness, and trustworthiness. Norms that regulate the research community, integrity, accountability, impartiality, and also right to criticism. And the relationship to participating people in research. If you are doing an empirical research, the respect that you should have for the people who participate in the research. You have to respect their human dignity, and you need to confidentially deal with that. And they should give you free and informed consent. All these things are discussed in the NESH guidelines. So I am reaching the end of my presentation. I am just stopping it 5 minutes before, though we could actually begin my talk from 2:15 only. But I thought that I will give some time for question answer or something like that. So some references I have given here, and I am also showing 2 of my own articles. One I have published in a Scopus Index journal, that is Journal of Intellectual Property Rights, wherein a topic on corporate issues in legal research and ethics is discussed in detail. And other book is being published by LexisNexis. It was edited version, wherein ethics in legal research, another topic that you can find. And I am giving you a link here, wherein you can just follow the link and you can read more material on this particular topic. I will be sharing this PPT with Jodhima. So those who are interested can get a copy, soft copy of this PPT, and you can read more about it. So it was a pleasure addressing you people. I will stop sharing now slides now. And now I will listen to your questions if you have some doubts, and I will see how I can help you out. Jyoti ma'am, is that okay? I hope the things.
Yes, ma'am, you were wonderful. Ma'am, I have one, it's not a question, just a fact. While I was getting my thesis checked under plagiarism. So what happens that the different tables that you put, I had put the interpretations, some of the language is always same while interpreting those data. So it takes that into the plagiarism. It shows that this is plagiarized, one's own work, because some of the language is always same in like 10 interpretations I have to write about the tables. So how to go about it?
Yeah, I would say that as far as possible, you try to use a different expression, but there are certain standards, certain terms, common.
Yes,
and that is already covered under the exclusion clause. I have taken you to one slide where I talk about the exclusion clause. It talks about the generic terms. So that's why I have told you, when you do it, you need to have 2 copies. I always tell this to our students. One copy that you have created and the other copy that you are doing for plagiarism check. Either there are 2 ways of doing it. If you are using the same copy, you put what all things are excluded in double inverted comma. Those who are in double inverted comma will not be taken into will not be taken as a plagiarism, because there is a proper acknowledgement. If you haven't that double inverted comma, then I would say you should delete these things, what all excluded by virtue of 2018 rules. That's a long list. As I told you, anything that is reproduced from Constitution, anything it is appearing as a common fact, anything that is appearing as a common vocabulary, common standard terms that you use, all this can be excluded. Then you can run a plagiarism check. Remove your reference, remove your bibliography, remove your footnotes. Because sometimes even my scholars come to me and say that, ma'am, we have written, and I know that for 3 years they were working. They say it's 50%. Okay, show me how you have done. Entire thing they have put in the software. So I tell them, okay, you remove reference, you remove bibliography, you remove footnotes, you remove these things, then you do, then it is coming to 6% or something like that. Another way, it's because of the difference in the software, how much material they read. If you go for a Turnitin, it always show a 5 to 10% more similarity than Urkund.
Right.
So I advise my students, if you have some fear that the plagiarism may be little more, then you go for a Urkund test than on a, Urkund test than on a Turnitin test, because in Turnitin it is always on higher side. Then I told you, In the checkbox, you have to take 14 words together. If you are not taking 14 words together, even the Constitution of India is plagiarized. Your name is plagiarized. Others' name is plagiarized, because I told you already, you have to delete from footnote the names. Footnote and the bibliography or reference should be deleted. But inside you may write according to Lisa or according to Jodi, like that we will be writing. Even that will be plagiarized.
Right.
So the 14 words together should be taken. Another thing that you have to remain, always you have to keep it in mind is, you should never allow your material, it may be a chapter, it may be a thesis, to go to their repository. Otherwise, they will take it to repository, and next time when you do, it will be 100% plagiarism.
Plagiarized.
Yeah. So these are the things that always we have to keep in mind, and we have to keep on educating and reminding our students, because they are more childish and they may commit mistakes.
I request Tanushri ma'am to kindly take on the question and answer session.
Thank you,
Tanushri.
Jyoti ma'am. Thank you, Jyoti. Lisa ma'am, it was really a very wonderful and informative session. Now I request the participants, if you have any query, ma'am is here with us. You can ask your questions. Participants, is there any question?
तनुश्री मैम, मैं एक जानकारी चाहती थी।
जी मैम, जी मीनू मैम, यस मैम।
ओके लिसन मैम, ये मैं जानना चाहती हूँ कि आपने जो जैसे आज बताया वो रिकॉर्डिंग हो गई और एक वीडियो बन गया, क्या हम इस आपके लेक्चर को वीडियो फॉर्म में यूट्यूब चैनल पर अपलोड कर सकते हैं? क्या ये कॉपीराइट एक्ट के तहत गलत तो नहीं होगा? प्लीज इस पर भी आप लोग डालें। तनुश्री, बाइलिंगुअल, यदि मैम को ना समझ में आए हिंदी तो बाइलिंगुअल।
I understood. Yeah. So only thing is that I cannot give you answer in Hindi. If I try to give you answer in Hindi, it will be broken Hindi with all grammatical. So I will prefer to give answer in English, but otherwise I follow each and everything. Yeah. So as I told you, I am invited here, and on your invitation, I have a command presented this, but that's not giving you a right to market my lecture that I am giving to you. Okay, so you have two ways of doing it. You can write to me and you can tell me, ma'am, we have a portal, and we are doing it on non-profit basis. Are you getting my point? If you are doing it on non-profit basis, you are taking my permission and doing it, it's absolutely fine. It has to go with my permission. Not only me, anybody's lecture that you want to upload. And especially when if it is going to give you money, whatever be the negligible amount also, because the non-commercial aspect is very important for thing. So you are using my lecture, and you are getting money, even if you are acknowledging it is Lisa's lecture, because anyway my face will be there, my sound will be there, you cannot manipulate it. Yeah. If by using the artificial technology and artificial intelligence, you are manipulating it and you are claiming it is somebody's lecture, then even my moral right is getting infringed. Yeah. Are we getting it? So, and if I would like to, and see, I am a copyright teacher, and I am at the same time I am a human rights teacher. It's a beautiful combination, no? I handle both the subjects in my university. So that has helped me to develop a very balanced understanding on intellectual property rights law. So I would say that especially in countries like developing countries, we should interpret the copyright principles in a very, very liberal sense. So as a content creator, I would say that always I will prefer a liberal interpretation. And even if somebody asks me for the permission, I will be glad to give this particular permission. But I will always say that my contribution should be acknowledged, my name should appear. So I will tell you another example of Ram Jethmalani. Everybody has heard about him. He keeps on writing apart from a lawyer. In his books, you can see it is a copy left work. He will not claim copyright for anything that he creates. He leaves it to the public. But then always he says, but all moral rights are asserted by the author. So he wants to see that public can write, public can reproduce, you can teach anything you do. I don't mind. But you please don't reproduce my work as your work. My moral right should be respected. So
Okay,
that
ma'am.
moral right respect should be there, and it's simply like that you are producing it. And even if a situation I am talking about is just to bring the clarity, I say, even if the college decides to pay me something, because we have some concept that the work done under remuneration, the work done under remuneration, it becomes the property of the employer. So even if an employer-employee contract exists here, you have called me because of my skill. I don't belong you to your employee list. My skill is respected because of the special skill or special knowledge, whatever you have called me here. So by saying that we have paid her some money, not automatically transfer of copyright. So whether there is money or whether there is no money, the moral rights cannot be transferred at all, because there is a concept of non-transferability of moral rights. It's only economic rights that can be transferred. So whenever you put it on YouTube, it should be with the permission of the person. And even if you are putting it with the permission of the person, it has to be attributed. That is the step.
थैंक यू मैम। और इसी संदर्भ में मैं आईपीआर चेयरपर्सन सेक्रेटरी होने के नाते महाविद्यालय की यूट्यूब की जो भी ओनर है उनसे ये रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगी कि इस वीडियो को यूट्यूब पर, कॉलेज यूट्यूब पर अपलोड करने से पहले मैम से एक लिखित परमिशन अवश्य ले लें। Am I right, ma'am?
Yes, you have to get the permission.
Okay. Thank you.
And what you call, and sometimes it happens that people rely on the implied permissions. But I would say that to be on the safer side, because for academic institutions and all know, the corporate infringement is a very bad thing. You might have, if you are belonging to any low faculty group or IP group, you have seen yesterday also, because just on 26th we celebrate IPR day, and one college, again not taking name of the college, one college has taken a picture from another book. That book was published by Professor V.K. Ahuja through LexisNexis, and his book's cover page was taken. A small photo of the cover page was taken in order to circulate the poster. So there is a huge hue and cry on that particular copying done without the permission of the publisher of LexisNexis. And in every law group, it's getting circulated. It's a shame on the college. It's a black name to the college. It's black name to the faculty associated as a coordinator, to the student coordinator, to the faculty coordinator, to IQAC, to the college itself. It is a ill name. And now see, you have WhatsApp, you have Facebook, information goes within no time, and people doesn't have respect for anybody. They just want to defame you. So we should be more prudent. We should be taking extra care in this situation wherein our reputation should not be damaged. So always you should go for the permission. And once, as I told you, academicians are generally generous. They will never say that, no, my lecture should not be used anywhere. They will be happy to allow you to disseminate their information. I think every academicians in our country might be happily giving you the permission to do that.
Okay, ma'am, here I wish to, Tanushree ma'am, can I talk to ma'am for a minute? Ma'am, I wish to inform you, like our students, they join through the YouTube channel of our college. So right now your lecture is being streamed live on our YouTube, on the YouTube channel of our college. So ma'am, how to
I would say that in such a situation, no, it was better if you had told me. As I told, I am not a person who will never stop you for everything. But see, as I told, it's intellectual labor of a person. Suppose there is another person who is not thinking in my line.
Yes.
And who is quickly thinking only in legal lines. So he can say that there was no information how my lecture is getting disseminated. So usually when you write, because you have written me an invitation, you have spoken to me, we were in touch on WhatsApp. So I would always say that you should have certain proofs. So not only in telephonic call, you have told that person, because the person's character also can change at any time.
Yes.
And copyright is not going to vanish tomorrow or day after. It's going to be there for years together. I told you 25 years back, that small thing the person has committed in PhD, his VC-ship is gone. Now he will never get appointment anywhere. His children also will be harassed because of this. They will have no respect in the society. So it's going to have long-term consequences. So in the invitation letter itself, you make the terms very clear. There will be automatic recording of the lecture, and we will be streamlining it. If the person is ready, then only he will join. If he is not joining, there is no scarcity for any intellectual brain in places like and UP. You will get another person. That's it. But I would say that you should make the terms and conditions very clear with the proof. So that's why I told you in letter itself you write. When you write the invitation letter, you write it. And if he is not agreeing, he has all the right to deny. Then he simply confirmed it. Okay, will be happy to be there. I can hereby confirm. That itself gives you all permission.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for throwing light on this particular issue. Yes, Tanushri, ma'am.
I have a question. Is it mandatory to have academic integrity panel in an education institution?
Yes. 2018 rule is a mandatory rule. It's not a discretionary.
ये होना चाहिए.
So every
IQAC के तहत.
higher education, there is a definition also you can see, higher education institutions. So you have UG, PG and UG PG programs. So it's necessary to have two types of panel in every department level, because you may have humanities, you may have law, you may have science. So in every department you have a departmental integrity panel, and then a top panel. Which you will have in the university or the institutional or college level, that institutional academic integrity panel. So whatever decisions that the departmental integrity panel takes, that you will get approved from the institutional academic panel. So when there is a NAC visit, when they are NIRF ranking, etc., this whole thing matters, no? So you need to have, and I would say that you few teachers can sit together if you haven't done so far, and you can frame some 5 to 10 points as your guidelines for dissertation making. Guidelines for dissertation for LLB. You have LLM also? PG also?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We have only BA LLB.
Okay,
No, we have PG in the.
But we have PG and research. But we have
Science.
PG in 6 subjects.
But I would say that the integrity rules are made strictly applicable from PG level itself. But we have introduced it from our UG level itself in order to sensitize the students. Because this is minimum standard, you can go for a stringent this thing also. So we have guidelines for LLB students also. We have guidelines for PhD students, LLM students, like that. And our university has prepared a set of ethics and integrity rules separately for our university itself, so that the things are very clear. Then students will not say that it was gray area, we never understood it. So you can have it, and always it will give you a good weightage to you, even in your NAC inspections as well, because IQAC has to do this.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
तनुश्री मैम, 1 मिनट यहाँ बीच में इंटरप्ट करके मैं बताना चाहूंगी, जिन्होंने भी क्वेश्चन किया था, हमारे कॉलेज में भी एकेडमिक इंटीग्रेशन पैनल है, इंस्टीट्यूशनल एंड डिपार्टमेंटल, वो कमिटी बनी हुई है। पर इस तरह के जब केस आते हैं, तो हमारे जर्नल में प्लैगियरिज्म का केस आया था, तो ये केस उस पैनल तक गया था। तो ये पैनल हमारे यहाँ बन चुका है और है, एग्जिस्ट कर रहा है। थैंक यू।
Okay, ma'am, is there any other question? Participants, is there any other question?
तनुश्री मैम, मुझे परमिशन देते एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन पूछना है।
बिल्कुल मैम।
इतने टैलेंटेड मेरे संग स्पीकर हैं कि बिल्कुल मेरा तो मन छोड़ने का नहीं हो रहा है। डॉक्टर लिसा मैम, एक मेरी प्रॉब्लम है, मेरा अपना निजी यूट्यूब चैनल चलता है, जिस पर मैंने अपने लेक्चर्स को, अपने कुछ अच्छे वीडियोस को भी रिकॉर्ड करके खुद डाला हुआ है। मेरी थोड़ी सी हैबिट थी कि कुछ प्रोग्राम होते थे, उनको भी मैं अपनी ही वॉइस में उसकी रिकॉर्डिंग, उसको एक्सप्लेनेशन करना या उसका रिपोर्ट तैयार करना मेरी हैबिट बन गई थी। 1-2 प्रोग्राम की मैंने ऐसे ही रिपोर्टिंग तैयार करके यूट्यूब पर डाल दी, पर मैंने 2 साल बाद देखा उसको कॉपीराइट क्लेम आ रहा है। मैंने खोलकर देखा कॉपीराइट क्लेम का कारण क्या हो सकता है, सिर्फ कॉलेज की फोटोग्राफ्स या फिर बैकग्राउंड म्यूजिक। तो क्या हमें बैकग्राउंड म्यूजिक जो फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट वहां पर लिखी थी कि फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट आप उसको अपलोड कर सकते हैं, उसको डालते वक्त भी ध्यान देना होगा? क्या मुझे कॉलेज से भी परमिशन लेनी होगी कि कॉलेज की फोटोज और कॉलेज के प्रोग्राम की मैं रिकॉर्डिंग कर रही हूँ? तो भी इस पर भी आप थोड़ा सा हमें गाइड करें।
I would say that when there is a live performance taking place, or when you strictly speak with respect to copyright, there is no copyright in the live performances. Okay.
नहीं, लाइव परफॉर्मेंस नहीं है, वो रिकॉर्ड फोटोग्राफ्स को लेकर के उस पर एक्सप्लेनेशन मेरा अपना है, वर्डिंग्स मेरी अपनी है, प्रेजेंटेशन मेरा अपना है, फोटोग्राफ्स तो कॉलेज के इवेंट के हैं।
So according to section 13 of the Indian Copyright Act, photographs are protected as artistic work. So generally, the photographer who takes the photo is the author of the photograph. But when it is again a commissioned or remuneration work, because university may ask a student to take it on behalf of university, or a person is invited by paying him daily wages or whatever it is, you take the photograph. So then it becomes the copyright of the university.
तो मैम फोटो खुद ली हुई हो, उनसे बोरो ना की हो तो भी.
And even if, so I will tell you, if you have taken your photo, if you have taken photo of somebody else, it's your copyright. But at the same time, copyright law is not an island. You should see that by clicking the photo of that program, you haven't infringed anybody's privacy. So if there is anything that, sometimes it is say that a photograph can be clicked only by the authorized person. If violating that rule, you have taken a photograph, then you did not have a copyright because it was against a rule that you have taken. If that rule was not existing, anybody could take the photograph, then you will become the owner of the photograph, the author and owner of the photograph. There will be no issue. And when you take music also, sometimes you have to see with respect to that music, background music, whether any copyright exists or not. So you can see that I have taken certain pictures here on my first slide. And then in the last page, I have acknowledged it because this chart or these photos I haven't created, I have borrowed it. So you have to acknowledge the link. You have to acknowledge the source from where you have borrowed it. You have to do that. And when somebody else's speech or somebody else's thing you are writing in your own way, you have to acknowledge and attribute what is the source of this. So a lecture delivered by so-and-so on so-and-so day in this particular program. That much attribution will be sufficient. So you are not owning, you are disowning, plus you are giving credit to the person who has done it. That will save you from both copyright infringement and plagiarism. If you are not doing it, it is both. It is copyright infringement plus plagiarism.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you giving for so important information. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there any other question? Okay, Jyoti ma'am, I think there are no more questions. So over to you, ma'am.
Ma'am, it was a very enlightening session. Your session has certainly enhanced our clarity on the concept of plagiarism and copyright. Now, I would request Dr. Anuradha Singh, the SSK IIC convener, to kindly present the report.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Very nice presentation. I request to Dr. Jyoti, ma'am, please volume apna kam. Very good afternoon once again. India has become a member of the global patent regime, but awareness and expertise on the subject of intellectual property rights in the academic institution is still inadequate. To apply for registration of IP, the faculties and students are required to observe confidentiality in relation to such information, though as an academic institution, the purpose is to disseminate information and the building of the research base. Maintenance of a proper balance and fine-tuning of academic excellence with academic integrity and protection and exploitation of intellectual property rights is becoming very important for the academic institutions. In the current scenario, the aggressive and targeted creation of intellectual property is the need of the hour. Protection of IPR and its commercialization propagates innovative culture, profitability, market leadership, and helps creation of wealth for the individual and eventually the nation. For that, IPR awareness is required, which is significant for fruitful growth of the intellectual property rights. In view of the above, a one-week online awareness workshop on IPR has been organized by IPR Cell, IQAC, and Institute Innovation Council of SS Khanna Girls Degree College. We shall present before you the valuable deliberations that happened in this academic journey. From 23rd to 28th April, 5 resource persons were invited to deliver their talk on the proposed theme. The first day, 23rd April, we celebrated World Book and Copyright Day. The eminent speaker was Dr. Jyoti Pandey, Associate Professor from BBA University, Lucknow, on the topic relevance of copyright in academic research. Dr. Pandey has shared valuable views why copyright is relevant in the field of academic research. She also gave her remarks to illustrate the importance of IP, patentability assessment, and the efforts being carried out by IPO for registration of IPRs. The second lecture was delivered on the topic Intellectual Property Rights, What, When, and How by Dr. Anil Kumar Chaube, Principal MJ College, Bhilai, Chhattisgarh. He threw light upon all the aspects of IPR. He told how students can get benefited by the knowledge of intellectual property right. The third lecture of the workshop was organized to mark the celebration of World IPR Day. An eminent speaker was Mr. Ravi Pandey, who is working as Research Establishment Officer, IP and Technology Transfer at IIT Kanpur. Mr. Pandey threw light upon all the aspects of patent and how IP management is important in a startup. He also told what is patentable or what not very effectively. Fourth lecture delivered by Dr. S.N. Chari, Deputy Director, ICSSR, New Delhi, on very interesting topic, how to make effective project proposal for funding agency. Provided an overview of the proposal writing process and how applicant can improve it. It also provides information about what minor details donor agency look for in proposals and how they decide to provide funding based on the proposal document. This created a buzz among the audience and was very much appreciated by the participants. The fifth lecture was delivered by the eminent speaker, Professor Lisa P. Bukos, Professor GGS, Indraprastha University, Delhi, on the topic role of copyright in the observance of academic integrity. She shared valuable views on the theme, who gave a very interesting interactive talk on copyright protection and infringement, do's and don'ts to avoid infringement and plagiarism, along with the ethics. Thus, in short, program included talks on importance of IPRs and their protection, patenting procedures, and patent formalities, patent searches, role of innovation and invention in the academia industry collaboration, trademark and copyright protection, issues of do's and don'ts for a researcher in the context of publishing and patenting. Moreover, the National Online Quiz was organized under the Intellectual Property Rights Week, which was open to the participants from 24th April to 26th April. 1280 participants from India and abroad participated in this quiz, out of which about 86% boys and girls and 14% research scholars and teachers participated. Entries were received in this quiz from 23 states and union territories of India and 7 other countries, including Bangladesh, Nigeria, Philippines, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and United Arab Emirates. This activity was coordinated by Dr. Mamta Bhatnagar and Dr. Shruti Anand. This workshop was enriched with the nuts of intellect and inspiration by the presence of experts in various fields. The participation of 213 faculty and research scholars from near about every state of India provided the workshop with a new height. We could observe the benefits derived from this workshop in the form of enhanced knowledge of the participants with IPR literacy and its ethical part in general, and aims to impart skills to handle different tools and technologies useful during the entire process of patent filing. Thank you. Over to you, Jyoti ma'am.
Thank you, Anuradha ma'am. Now I would request Dr. Meenu Agarwal, Chairperson IPR Cell, to accord the vote of thanks in this session. Dr. Meenu Agarwal.
Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you. It's 1 week वर्कशॉप ऑन इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट के इस अंतिम सोपान पर हम बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करते हैं डॉक्टर लीसा पी लुकोसी, यूनिवर्सिटी स्कूल ऑफ लीगल स्टडीज, गुरु गोविंद सिंह इंद्रप्रस्थ यूनिवर्सिटी न्यू दिल्ली। आपका बिना किसी फॉर्मेलिटी के मुझे कहने में ये बिल्कुल हिचक नहीं कि आपने महाविद्यालय की फैकल्टी मेंबर्स, स्टूडेंट्स, रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स और अन्य संस्थाओं से जुड़े हुए उन सभी लोगों की आईपीआर से रिलेटेड कुछ ऐसी चीजों पर आंखें खोलनी हैं जो गलतियां शायद हम अनजाने में कर रहे थे। मैं उसको आज इस मंच पर एक्सेप्ट करती हूँ, बीइंग अ चेयरपर्सन ऑफ आईपीआर सेल, और साथ ही साथ अपने महाविद्यालय के उन साथियों से यह अनुरोध और आग्रह करती हूँ जो आईसीटी सेल से भी जुड़ी हुई हैं, आईपीआर सेल, आईआईसी और आईक्यूएसी से जुड़ी हुई हैं, जो महाविद्यालय के यूट्यूब चैनल पर उन वीडियोस को अपलोड कर रहे हैं, उन वीडियोस को अपलोड करने की जो गलती कर चुके हैं हम लोग, उसको सुधारने की दिशा में उन रिसोर्स पर्सन से हम लोग उनकी लिखित परमिशन को ले लें। ज्ञान के अभाव में जरूर हम पथ से थोड़ा भटक गए थे, लेकिन यकीन मानिए डॉक्टर लीसा, आपकी दी हुई इस अवेयरनेस ने, आपके द्वारा दी हुई इस जागरूकता ने हम लोगों को भी जागरूक किया है, और निश्चित ही थोड़ी थोड़ी जागरूकता ही इसके प्रसार में सहायक होगी। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। धारा प्रवाह शैली और किसी भी विषय को, और वो भी इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट जैसे टफ टॉपिक पर इतने आसान रूप में इतनी सशक्त प्रस्तुति करके बता देना, ये साबित करता है कि आपको अपने टॉपिक का कितना गहन नॉलेज है, और उस नॉलेज से हम सबको लाभान्वित होना है, एक बार नहीं, आगे भी कई बार। बहुत ही अच्छे ढंग से आपने आईपीआर के बारे में जानकारी दी, और जानकारी दी कि हर उच्च संस्थाओं में एकेडमिक इंटीग्रिटी पैनल होना चाहिए। गवर्नमेंट और यूजीसी रिसर्च और इनोवेशन को बढ़ावा दे रही है। रिसर्च बढ़ेंगे, आईपीआर प्लेगरिज्म से रिलेटेड मामले भी आएंगे, उनको हम ही लोगों को सुलझाना होगा, अपने इस रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स को अवेयर भी करना होगा, उनको नॉलेज भी देनी होगी, और इसके लिए इस तरह के कार्यक्रमों और आप जैसे रिसोर्स पर्सन की भी हमें बहुत जरूरत महसूस होगी, और आपका सहयोग हमें आगे भी चाहिए होगा। तो डॉक्टर लीसा, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आज जुड़ने के लिए। हम आपके आभारी सदैव रहेंगे, महाविद्यालय आपके प्रति हमेशा आभारी रहेगा। जैसा कि डॉक्टर अनुराधा ने बताया कि यह हमारा 1 वीक का प्रोग्राम था, और ये हम लोग आईपीआर डे के साथ साथ आईपीआर वीक भी मना रहे थे। इन पिछले दिनों में जिनके ज्ञान से हम सब लाभान्वित हुए, उनमें मिस्टर रवि पांडे, डॉक्टर ए.के. चौबे, डॉक्टर एस. संचारी, डॉक्टर ज्योति पांडे, आपके भी विचारों से लाभान्वित हुए। तो लास्ट दिन आपके प्रति भी महाविद्यालय अपनी कृतज्ञता और आभार व्यक्त करता है। ये कार्यक्रम आईक्यूएसी, इनोवेशन सेंटर और आईपीआर सेल, इन तीनों ही कमिटियों के सह सहयोग से आयोजित किया गया था। इन तीनों ही समितियों के चेयरपर्सन्स को और उनकी टीम को, टीम हमारी थोड़ी लंबी हो जाएगी इसलिए नाम लेना संभव नहीं है, लेकिन टीम का कोई भी मेंबर छूटना नहीं चाहिए। पूरी टीम सहित आईक्यूएसी, आईआईसी और आईपीआर सेल के चेयरपर्सन को हम धन्यवाद देते हैं, जिनके सक्रिय सहयोग और जिनके कर्मणता से, जिनकी कर्मठता से, जिनकी कठिन मेहनत से ये हम 1 वीक का ये कार्यक्रम आयोजित कर पाए, और एक से बढ़कर एक रिसोर्स पर्सन्स की बातों को सुन करके उनसे हम ज्ञान के मोती चुग पाए। आप भी धन्यवाद के पात्र हैं। इसी क्रम में हम उनको भी बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहेंगे जिन्होंने यूट्यूब लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग हो, जूम मीटिंग को ऑर्गेनाइज करना हो, या फिर आईसीटी, या फिर पूरे टाइम लैपटॉप, कंप्यूटर और स्क्रीन को संभालना हो, सक्रिय योगदान दिया। इन सब के प्रति महाविद्यालय अपना आभार व्यक्त करता है। एक बार फिर से IQAC, IIC और IPR के अंतर्गत आयोजित इस एक सप्ताह के IPR कार्यक्रम में प्राचार्य प्रोफेसर लालिमा सिंह के निर्देशन में होने वाले इस कार्यक्रम में डॉक्टर लीसा टीबोकोस, आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। धन्यवाद ज्योति।
Thank you so much, and thank you to the institute also.
Thank you, ma'am.
Especially to
Thank you, Lisa, ma'am.
Thank you, Jyoti ma'am. You have been coordinating for weeks together. Thank you so much. So, with your permission, may I leave, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now we'll end the session. We will be connecting with you in future also, ma'am.
My pleasure, ma'am. Anytime.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to all the participants who have been with us through the week.
Hello, ma'am. Hello. Hello.
Yes, who's there?
Myself, I am Jyoti Patil from Government Polytechnic Ratnagiri. Ma'am, what about certificate, sir? Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, there are no certificates for this particular workshop. It was the quiz activity that was held. If you've participated in that, you would have got the certificate. The quiz activity we are giving, it was just like we conducted this program not for certification purpose, but for enhancement of knowledge, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jyoti. Bye bye, and thank you to both of you.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, bye.
Yes. Can I close the session now? वो हमको बोलना पड़ेगा।
जी। हो गया तो हो गया। जानती हैं क्या है, IQAC वाली मीटिंग में रिजॉल्व हो गया। रिजॉल्व हो जाना आसान है ना, कि 1 वीक प्रोग्राम होना है। अब सर ने कुछ काटा, इन लोगों ने कुछ कहा नहीं, तीसरे ने कुछ कहा नहीं, वहां मिनट्स पढ़ो और उसका जवाब दो। तो हमने कहा नहीं सर, ये नहीं होगा, 1 हफ्ते होगा, ये ऑनलाइन के अलावा ऑफलाइन नहीं हो सकता है। खटाखट इन लोगों ने कहा 25 से करें, उससे करें। हमने कहा नहीं 23 से करो। दीदी कई बार अड़ना पड़ता है, चाहे किसी को अच्छा लगे चाहे बुरा लगे। करके देखिए, हो ही गया, ठीक ही ठाक हो गया। ये लीजा ने तो बहुत ही अच्छा बोला। बहुत सारी लीजा जूकोस थी आज के स्पीकर, और इंद्रप्रस्थ यूनिवर्सिटी दिल्ली में LLM को